And we are recording. We are live, guys. So thanks everyone for clicking on this video. This is a Criterion Roundtable. So this is the second edition of just a conversation with some of my favorite people in the YouTube community that talk about films and physical media. So we have my good friend Nathan Jones, Elliot Coen, and Chris Mohan. And yeah, today we're going to be talking about all things Criterion Collection, and we're going to be picking one recommendation of a film that we really enjoy from the collection that we may have seen recently or we just want to champion. And then we're going to discuss one film each that isn't in the collection that we would like to see get the treatment, basically. Yeah, so how is everyone doing before we get started?
Great.
Yeah, good, thanks.
Yeah,
a bit husky, recovering from sickness, but you know, this is a nice way to break it up.
Excellent, good to hear. So my first pick is going to be a film from 1941, and it's directed by Preston Sturges, and it's a film called The Lady Eve. I believe everyone here has seen this film.
Yeah,
and everyone here is quite a big fan of this film.
Indeed.
Yeah. So
yeah,
cool. So I'm preaching to the choir here mostly, I believe, but I'm sure there will be some viewers who may be watching this video who haven't seen The Lady Eve. I mean, I hadn't seen it until probably about a month ago, even though I'd seen other Preston Sturges' work. Preston Sturges had a sort of greatest hits sort of string of films all in the row. Like he made The Lady Eve in 1941, Sullivan's Travels in 1941 as well, and then The Palm Beach Story in 1942. So just three back-to-back bangers, let's just call them that, for lack of a better words. And that string of films is probably only surpassed by Howell and Pressburger's three films of like A Matter of Life and Death, Black Narcissus, and The Red Shoes, basically, in my opinion. I can't think of a director who's had such high quality work back to back in that respect. Yeah. And I just think that The Lady Eve is the perfect example. It may not be my favorite, but it's like one of the best examples of a screwball comedy. And it's really interesting because there's a gender role reversal. So in the film, we have Barbara Stanwyck as Jean, and my mind is blanking. Henry Fonda. That's right. Henry Fonda's in the film, and he plays Charles, or what does she call him in the film? Hopsy or something like that. Yeah. And Barbara Stanwyck's character is very much in control of the relationship dynamic, and it's really interesting to see that sort of gender reversal, especially in the 1940s. It was really interesting. So before I go into the plot, does anyone want to talk about their experiences watching this film? Like, because I only watched it a month ago, so
I only watched it, I want to say, a year ago for the first time myself, so it's a fairly recent thing for me as well. But I just had a blast. I mean, from the opening shots to, I mean, that cover shows it all. That particular scene.
Oh yeah, that scene is just incredible. I think it's my favorite scene from the film.
But yeah, it's a very funny film, and I'm still new to a lot of slapstick comedy as well. But I'm very excited to dive further into Sturges' filmography, honestly. And that's one I've watched twice because of just how much I enjoyed it. It's just very lighthearted, and I really enjoy, like, honestly, even the final shot of the film. The bookends of the film, the beginning and the end, are just so memorable, and I think that's what makes it such a good pick.
I think for me, one of the really interesting parts about it is that I don't think you particularly like either character. I mean, Henry Fonda is such a patsy that you kind of think he gets what deserves coming to him. And then Barbara Stanwyck's so manipulative that you kind of don't want her to win either, but somehow you like both of them because of how the film kind of comes together. That's the bit that really sticks out for me about The Lady Eve.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I only watched it for the first time on the Criterion disc. And it's one of those films where I'd wanted to see it for so long, but because it wasn't widely available, I just waited and waited for the Blu-ray.
Yeah,
I'm glad I did.
I do that a lot with films. I'm like, oh, there's a DVD. Oh, I'll see. I'll wait for the inevitable Blu-ray, which may come or may not come. But I have on occasion like had to buy DVDs of films because I've been so desperate to see something and it's not had a Blu-ray release, and you never know when it's going to happen, if ever. But yeah, so just to summarize what the plot of The Lady Eve for like any viewers out there who might be interested in what we're talking about. So we have Barbara Stanwyck playing Jean and Henry Fonda's Charles. They're on like an ocean liner or something like that, some sort of steamship, or I can't remember exactly what it is. But Jean is a con artist, and she marks Charles as her next mark to try and con him out of his fortune, because he's like an heir to like a beer company or an ale company, and it's a point of contention in the film that it's not beer, it's ale, and there's a big difference. So, and but during the con, she falls for him, as is typical in a screwball comedy sort of scenario. And yeah, without revealing too much more about the plot, there's a lot of themes of sort of identity deception and like recoupling sort of thing. Like yeah, it's hard to talk about without going into specifics of exactly how the film sort of pans out, because it's very much, you don't want this spoiled, because there's a lot of charm and comedy involved in how it plays out. But yeah, the film is just charming from start to finish. I absolutely loved it on this first watch on this Criterion disc about a month ago. And yeah, as Nathan mentioned, the ending of this film is just made me smile from ear to ear, and it made me like, I was smiling long after like the film had finished and I'd put the disc back in the case. I haven't actually watched any of the special features, so that's really bad on my part. But yeah, this film it's a new 4K digital restoration. And it looks absolutely superb for a film that came out in 1941. Gorgeous black and white cinematography. And yeah, I did watch one thing, the introduction by Peter Bogdanovich from 2001. And yeah, he's very passionate about The Lady Eve, and that was really interesting to see. And yeah, I wholeheartedly recommend this to anyone who is into the screwball comedy genre. If you are, you've probably seen this, but if you haven't, check it out. It's absolutely amazing, and this is available in both the UK and the US. So this is the UK Criterion edition. So if you're in the UK and you don't have access to the Criterion discs, it is available in both territories. So it's a good pick. There you go. There's the US version.
It's the same.
So there we go. There's my recommendation for this episode. So yeah, who wants to go next? So we just go around. Nathan, do you want to go first?
Sure.
Cool.
This is a more recent release in the collection, so we're jumping some years from 1941 to 2020, which was a great year for everyone, and especially for people like Dick Johnson right here. So I decided to go with the documentary Dick Johnson is Dead. It's kind of a little bit of a glare there. But this is about Kirsten Johnson, who did Camera Person a few years prior to that, and she is known for kind of splicing that narrative of ethnographic work that she likes to do, tied in with the fiction of the camera and storytelling. So with this one in particular, it's about her dad losing kind of sensibility. He's got a little bit of Alzheimer's, kind of forgetfulness, and it's her processing the death of her father. And what she wants to do, and this is where the tone is really strange, is she wants to recreate not recreate, she wants to create different death scenarios, watching her father have accidents and die.
Right.
And this is just this weird process of, if you get the tone wrong, it's like this could come off a little bit strange, but it is this combination of a very cathartic experience for both Johnsons, Dick and Kirsten. And so I just think it was one of those films that really moved me, because it does play a lot with narrative, obviously, and creating those scenes, and it has some really high fantasy elements into it. I mean, you can kind of see the cover with that, like those heavenly clouds up in the top, and there's some really gorgeous moments in this film. But it is a film that the reason I chose this one was because when I was a graduate student and getting my master's degree, I did a lot of ethnographic work, and some of that I had tied with my own father, who's still alive, and but it hit a lot of notes for me, and I just really appreciate kind of the blending of fiction and nonfiction that we can do and utilize with the medium itself. And it's a very moving piece. And, you know, if somebody says like, well, how are you going to process, you know, the death of a family member? Well, you can do it in a few different ways. And I think that Dink Johnson is an excellent film that I think is available on Netflix. So if anyone doesn't have this, you can watch it on Netflix, probably the Criterion channel as well. I didn't even know it was a Netflix film until the opening crawl started. But it was a really excellent film. And I watched all the special features, really great stuff. But anyone have anything to say about this one?
I've not actually seen it yet.
I haven't seen it either, but your description makes me really want to watch this now. So
yeah, I think it has actually got a UK release this week.
Tomorrow. It's out tomorrow.
Tomorrow. All right.
Yeah.
Perfect timing. Yeah.
Indeed. But yes. it is on Netflix here as well. So it is a Netflix film as well. But I haven't seen it.
Yeah. It's got a lot of good special features. I'll just say it's the 2K digital master. And some audio commentaries and conversations with the director, of course, and new interviews with the sound designer and the people who are the producers of the film. That might be the weirdest thing in this one, that the round table, because there was like a Zoom, just like kind of what we're doing. But so the producers felt a little bit cold in their interactions with Kirsten. So that was the one thing that, you know, if you're watching that feature, I don't know if anyone else has seen that feature, but it's very interesting to see the dynamic, or people who have a lot of the money and people who are like at the heart of the film itself. So something I noticed myself, but high recommendation for me.
I'm not sure whether having a couple of family members that have had and died what happened to Alzheimer's makes me more prone to watch it or less, if that makes sense, you know. Because I did think, God, I'll watch it on Netflix before coming out in Criterion, because I'll have an informed view, because it'll be one of those things you can watch it, decide to stop or otherwise. But I never followed through. I think it was kind of a bit chicken. I think the subject matter scares me. Yeah.
Your description, Nathan, of the blending of fiction and, you know, non-fiction, just the first thing that popped into my head was Abbas Kiarostami, because I think he's one of the greatest filmmakers to sort of do that, particularly with Close Up and the Coca trilogy. I've only seen the first film in that trilogy, actually. So, but yeah, I'm sure the tones and everything are completely different. But it's just,
absolutely.
Yeah, but the style, that sort of really interesting sort of clashing of fiction and non-fiction is just it's just really interested in that sort of filmmaking. So yeah, I actually got some. It was my birthday recently, and I got some Amazon vouchers. So, and I've still got some money to spend. So I think I'm going to buy that film based on your recommendation. So thank you for that.
Excellent.
Cool. Elliot, you want to go next?
Yeah, sure. Right.
Not Barry Lyndon.
No, I'm not going to pull that trick again. I'm going to talk about a Polish film now. This is Ashes and Diamonds. Has anyone seen this one here?
I haven't, but I've seen some Vita films aside from that.
So it came out in 1958, and it's a thriller set at the end of World War II. And basically, in Poland, it wasn't really a time of celebration as such, because the end of World War II and the Nazis leaving the country meant that the Russians could come in and kind of take control. So it was like a bittersweet time. So it's set in that period, and you follow this guy who is a renegade fighter, and he's sent on this task to kill someone. But on the way, he falls in love, and that makes him question, you know, his whole, you know, spirit of life and what he's doing and that kind of thing. But it's just one of those films that I watched it probably, I think it was about 7 years ago, because I've got the really old Arrow Academy one. It's old. It's got one of those window box things on it.
So I always thought that cover looked like the Terminator.
Yeah, it does, doesn't it? Yeah. But yeah, I hadn't seen it in 7 years, and I picked up the Criterion when it got re-released, because it's from a 4K restoration. So it looks amazing, sounds amazing. And the thing I love about this film in particular is that it reminds me of lots of other films and filmmakers. So that helps kind of strengthen my love of the film. Like, it's got a great story and everything, but all throughout it's reminding me of other films and filmmakers. So yeah, it's a great film. If you've never seen it, I definitely recommend checking it out.
Cool.
You need to see more Polish films. I feel like I'm kind of lackluster on my Polish film knowledge.
Yeah, I think most of my Polish film experiences is with like Kieslowski and oh my days, the guy who directed Cold War and Ida.
Pawlowski. Pawlowski.
Yeah, I think that's mostly. That's it. I think.
I've seen some folklore in that Severin box set.
Oh yeah, of course.
That's true. That's true. That's true. Yeah, very cool stuff.
The film that I've seen on Violet recently is around the similar theme. It's Katyn, which is tells the story of a massacre in Poland at the time, and because it was at that changeover of the time, between Russian and German, both sides blamed the other on the atrocity. So the Germans blamed the Russians blamed the Germans, and the film is very much about exploring Vidas, because it's very autobiographical, about his mother's role in the war, his father's role in the war, and actually those two sides of the war in the context of this massacre that happened around that place. And it's absolutely brilliant film. Yeah.
He's one of those filmmakers that I think, for the quality of his filmography, he isn't as well known as he should be. But he won an honorary Oscar in 2000, so he is like recognized in the industry. But I think maybe it's just because his films aren't out there as much.
I think that's part of a trilogy, that film, The Ashes and Diamond.
Yeah, it is.
Be. Yeah. I've seen none of them, of course.
No, I've not seen the others. No.
Barely ended in that trilogy?
No.
Cool.
Different trilogy. Yes, mine are up. So, okay, one of those last minute changes. I'm going to go for Charulata by Satyajit Ray, which came out, I think, last year in the UK. I don't know about the US, but it came out at the same time, around that time anyway. And, like a lot of, Ray films that I've seen, it deals in this kind of area of different classes. A lot of his films look at different classes. And in this case, it looks at a relationship between a man and his wife, a bit of a younger wife. And they have very different interests, let's just say. Has anybody seen Charulata, by the way?
Yes.
No.
Yeah. I've seen it a few times, actually. I love that film.
Yes. So they're very different. He runs a local newspaper, and he's very much interested in politics, and that's where all his time and energy goes into. His young wife, who he sort of neglects, is very much more into the arts, literature, reading, writing, that kind of stuff. And the husband gets his younger cousin, I think it is, to come and kind of spend some time with the wife to interest her, and they have very similar interests, and it doesn't take a genius to understand where that film kind of goes after that part. But I mean, Rye's filmmaking is known to be kind of poetically, kind of beautifully shot. A lot of the framing that he has, and a lot of the wistful looks, let's just say, in the undercurrent of the feelings, don't need to be said in the film. They're kind of there on the screen for you, and I think that's one of the things that makes Charulata very powerful. Plus the fact that it has a very powerful ending, I think, as well, and stuff that leaves one of those end leaves things hanging in the air a little bit with how it goes, but just utterly beautiful and sumptuous film, I think.
Yeah, it's one of those films that has like some of the most fluid camera work that I've ever seen. Like a lot of it is set in this big house, and the way the camera like moves through the hall following the characters. And there's a particular scene where one of the characters is on a swing, and the camera is like fixed to the character and is swinging at the same time.
Nice.
I'd never seen anything like it before. So really good camera work.
1964, I think, as well. Like, Rye's just a master of using the framing and the bits in the scene to kind of draw something out of the film itself. I just think he's just wonderful. And of course, you have just this lovely, touching, and likable characters. I think the whole way along, I think you see sympathy for everybody in the piece because he draws them so well.
Is it kind of like an upstairs downstairs film in a sense? If that's, I mean, I maybe I'm framing this because I haven't seen it, but
yeah, it's not quite. I mean, it's very much deals in very much the upper class part of Indian society, so the well-to-do society. There's very much less of the contrast of the upstairs downstairs that you might see in some other things, but it definitely kind of goes into the differences between this relationship, you know, the male and the female, the husband and wife in it, and actually how youth. It kind of is much more to do, I think, with idealism and youth than it is necessarily about class.
It is an interesting contrast to the Apu trilogy, which is obviously about poor, you know, people that are struggling, whereas this film isn't about that as such. It's a totally different kind of struggle.
Yeah, I pictured like Rules of the Game when you were talking about shifting with things, but obviously I haven't seen it yet, so
yeah,
I'm looking forward to it.
Awesome. Cool. Well, that'll be the end of our recommendations section of the episode. I've now got 3 films to add to my wish list, so thanks for that. God, this is the trouble with YouTube and watching other people talk about films. There's just so much influence, and it's not peer pressure, but it's just like, oh, that sounds really good. Oh, it's not on any streaming service. Damn it, I'm gonna have to buy it now.
Yeah.
I think the other problem is that I think everybody in this call has such a wide variety of films that they like as well. If you just like horror films or something, it would be not so bad, but everything kind of tickles your fancy in a little way, and it kind of pulls you in all those different directions. So
yeah, and I think that while all 4 of us have quite different tastes, we all have things in common with each other. Like, I can definitely notice that with each one of you.
Absolutely.
Much later.
So we're back, guys, after a minor mishap. Any viewers out there watching right now, a slightly different camera angle, maybe the resolution is slightly different because my camera died at the end of the first part of our conversation, but my computer has a webcam in it, and we are all set to go for our wish list section of this episode. And we'll start with Chris because he went last for the previous time, and we'll end with myself.
I look at my short list of 4. After thinking I wasn't going to be able to pick anything, right, I'm going to go for this because this is my current rabbit hole, and that is Australian cinema. And there isn't that much Australian cinema in the Criterion Collection that I can think of outside of a few notable ones. This one is Sunday Too Far Away. Okay, it's from Umbrella Entertainment. They do a Sunburn Screens line, which is very much Australian remastered films, etc. And it's one of those typical films that the plot of which doesn't really sell the story. So it's very much the story of a group of men who basically shear sheep. So they travel around the outback, etc., getting set up for a period of time, and they have to shear the entire sheep, or being put in what's called a shed. And that's the film, so to speak. So there's a bit more comes along from that. There's obviously the camaraderie of the people and the characters that go along. So it's very weird and wonderful characters, from the old hands to the newbies to the people that are incredibly competitive. So the male competitive nature about who can shear the most sheep. There's a competition goes on every day, and there's a top dog, and you know, trying to knock each other off. And then there's the idea that in the background, there is union negotiations going on about the rate of pay at the moment, and actually how much they're going to be paid for this job that they're currently on, because they're obviously very poor, everybody. This is not a glamorous lifestyle. This is not a lifestyle that's really consuming them, because it just seems that they get paid, they go to the bar, they drink their wages, they get up the next day really hungover and go do it all again in what is backbreaking, sweaty work. And it's actually a film that was supposed to be much longer. This is only half of the film that was made, because the second half of the film is very much about more of the union impact. And you see some of that coming in the end of the film, but it goes through. But it's just this really lovely slice of life, looking at a group of people and a group of set of circumstances that I'm sure nobody here has any real experience of, or knows anybody of that bit, but you kind of get a feeling for that life, and there's drama and tragedy. Yeah,
someone needs cheering in the group.
I know a guy, right? but that's the film, and I think it fits very well in Criterion because it is very much about expanding horizons and expanding ideas and the awareness of different parts of the world and life, and that's kind of what cinema does.
What's that film called again? I missed it when you called.
Sunday Too Far Away.
Sunday Too Far Away. Cool.
So Jack Thompson, you may recognize, is the main actor there. There's a couple of other people in it that you kind of go, I think I recognize them from insert Australian soap of the 90s or so that I may have seen or otherwise. But other than that, it's very much a character piece, very male driven for a lot of it. But I thought it was great. I think that entire line's great. To be perfectly honest, like I say, that's my current rabbit hole.
What year did the film come out?
That is a good question. I think it actually puts it inside here. 1975. There you go.
Okay. The best year for cinema ever,
guys.
Wasn't
on your list.
Cool, awesome. Completely.
That's my pick.
No idea that film, or I don't.
That's kind of why I picked
it.
Yeah, so. That's kind of why I picked it, because I thought everything that I have, a lot of people will be aware of, and I just thought I think that deserves a bit of love, and especially that line I think deserves a bit of love.
Cool.
I definitely need to watch more Australian films.
Me too. Yeah, very big blind spot for me. I mean, I've seen a few, but I'm
talked about a few.
Yeah. The Proposition's out from BFI and 4K at the end of the month as well, which is a fabulous film.
I love that film. Yeah. And have you guys seen Waking Fright?
No.
It's out on Masters of Cinema.
That is.
That is a great Australian film. Really good. It's what they call Ozploitation.
Yeah.
Just, I guess, like Australian exploitation, but it's a great film. Yeah.
Okay. Cool. I see. Just off topic, that Eureka had announced a bunch of stuff that was going out of print recently. See on their social media channels, it was just out of nowhere. They just go, this is getting deleted, and I don't know if any other companies are picking them up and maybe putting them out. I don't know. But I managed to pick up a few of them quickly before they sold out in some locations. But like Edvard Munch is now gone. It's now deleted, so you can't get that now unless you pay good money for it on the secondary market, and a bunch of other things like
a New Leaf,
Contessa, a New Leaf. I already had that one, but
Birth of a Nation. There's quite a lot of stuff. Luckily, I had a lot of it, but it did coincide with the 20% off eBay sale, so I managed to buy a few bits and bobs and stock up.
Excellent.
I think what they might not have anticipated is that with all of these titles going out of print, that's actually going to reduce demand for newer titles, because people will know that they can't feasibly collect everything now. So they'll think, why would I collect each and every one of the new titles? So I think it is going to have that kind of knock-on effect, unfortunately. And it seems like they're doing more of the Eureka Classics, Hong Kong cinema stuff.
It's quite rare that there's maybe one a month, if that, at the minute.
There's only been one announced so far, one that Masters of Cinema title announced for the whole of the start of the year so far, and that's the Indian Tomb, which is out again tomorrow.
Yeah.
Sort of running out of stuff to release, so...
But the Kung Fu stuff is just brilliant. I just love it. I think it's so good. I'm really enjoying the Shore Scope set from Arrow, so I think I'm going to have to pick up some of those Eureka.
Got that myself.
Titles. So it's just, that was again a blind spot for me in terms of cinema. I'd not seen, apart from some Jackie Chan stuff, I'd seen absolutely nothing of that type of cinema, and it is fantastic. And just from watching the first film, King Boxer, from that box set, you can see where Tarantino got a lot of influences from. Ridiculous. I didn't realize how much he took, or some people say rip off. I don't know whether I'd go that far, but
homage.
We'll go homage. It's so prominent. When I was watching, I was like, oh my, just all the sound cues and everything like that, but particularly with like Kill Bill. Ridiculous. Anyway, there's a sidestep there again. That's the fun of having just a relaxed conversation sometimes. Elliot, what would you like to come to the Criterion Collection in the future?
So, like Chris, I've got a bit of a pile here. So I'm gonna choose one on the fly. I'm gonna stick with Poland because I spoke about Ashes and Diamonds before. This one is called the Hourglass Sanatorium, and I think I've spoken to you about this, Sam.
You have, yeah.
Have any of you guys seen this one before?
Have not.
No, I have it. I have it now after your recommendation, but I still haven't got around to watching it.
So it's a film from the early 70s from a director called Wojciech Has. And the best way to describe this film is it's about dreams and like the blurring of reality and dreams. The story follows this guy who his father is in a sanatorium because he needs some kind of help, like medical help kind of thing. And he goes to visit his dad in this place. And the place is very strange. There's something a bit off about it. And the doctor there tells him that his father has stopped breathing, but hasn't yet passed on. And he thinks it's because of the main character visiting there that time has stopped and reality is shifting. And it basically just goes through all these different dream sequences. If you like surrealist cinema, like David Lynch, yeah, Sam loves that. Yeah, this is one to definitely get. I don't even know if this is still in print on this label, Mr. Bongo. So I think it would be great
Cool name for a label.
Yeah, well, they primarily do like international world music on vinyl, but for some reason they've done a few Blu-rays as well. So yeah, it's a weird one, but I think it's one of those that just hasn't had much attention on it. And if it came to the Criterion Collection, it would get a lot more eyeballs on it, essentially. The way I often describe this film to people, are any of you guys fans of Buffy the Vampire Slayer?
Oh yeah.
Indeed, yeah.
Do you remember the final episode of season 4 is one that's like this weird dreams episode where all of the main characters are asleep and they're dreaming. And in that episode, the characters kind of shift from location to location, like they'll crawl under a thing and come out in a different area and time. This film is very much like that. And I would say that maybe that Buffy episode took inspiration from this. So yeah, it's a great film, and yeah, I just wish more people had seen it.
What sort of special features would you want the Criterion to make from that, or is there any decent ones on that one? I can't remember.
There's no special features on this at all.
Okay.
There's a really interesting interview with Francis Ford Coppola on YouTube talking about Wojciech Has and how his work has inspired him. So if they got something like that to just put on the disc, that would be great. Because I know that a lot of famous filmmakers are real fans of this director. Like Scorsese is a big fan. Because I think some of the director's films were restored in the World Cinema Project that Scorsese does, but I don't think they've been released on disc outside of Poland. So yeah, it's a bit of a shame, but maybe one day.
Yeah.
As a little tip, it's $4.99 on Mr. Bongo at the moment from $9.99. Although that is nearly £4 postage, but it's a pretty decent bargain in there.
Yeah,
very good.
Yeah, just check out the trailer on YouTube and just see if it takes your fancy.
When you said Mr. Bongo, I thought you said Mr. Bungle for a second, so I was thinking, oh, it's Mike Patton's little Blu-ray label here.
Very weird band.
Very weird label, apparently. Yeah.
Nathan, you're up.
All right. Well, sticking to another film that is relatively recent, and a filmmaker who's actually putting out a film later on this year is Kogonada. And I wanted to talk about Columbus. And this movie came out in 2017. Has any of you seen this movie?
No, I've never even heard of it.
Yeah, so Columbus, this is a very bare bones. This is Oscilloscope put this out. I don't know if you know Oscilloscope Laboratories, another very obscure kind of company. I think I was talking to a friend the other day, and he said that a member of the Beastie Boys owns this, which is very interesting. But regardless, talking about music, John Cho is our main character in here, and we also have Haley Lou Richardson, and she was in Edge of 17, main character in that film. So it's really following this place in Columbus, Indiana, which is not the Columbus many people think about. So it's just a really small town in Indiana, but it is known for, world renowned for its architecture that is just all over the place. And the very beginning of the film, John Cho's father is one of the architects and one of the professors there, emeritus, and falls ill, and he's coming to go visit him. They're estranged, so they don't really have much of a relationship. Let's see, Haley Lou Richardson's character, Casey, she is a film student, or not a film student, an architectural student who hasn't gone to college yet, but is just really interested in the place itself. And she's lived there her whole life with her mother, who is struggling with a factory job. And the two are very age different, so 19 and probably John Cho's in his 30s or 40s. They kind of come together in places where one is trying to, sustain the play, trying to not, I feel like I'm stumbling over my words here, but Haley's character, she's better than the place that she's at and wants to move and can move on, but she wants to stay with her mother and support that. Whereas John Cho's character is dealing with his estranged father, who he kind of wants to just pass on. That way he can get rid of this part of his life. And so there's that interesting dynamic that's between the two of the characters who love different things, and the architecture of the place and the stillness of the place is really kind of the focal point of the film itself. And just it really deals with stillness and movement in a weird, interesting way. And I really like Kogonada's film work. I guess he's worked with Sight and Sound and Criterion in the past doing visual essays. And so I think this is one of his first films, and he's making After Yang, which is coming out with Colin Farrell later on this year, which I'm very excited about. So he has worked with Criterion before with visual essays, so I would assume something along the lines of Columbus would come out. And this has a very small little bit of special features. It's just deleted scenes, the trailer itself, one of short stories by Kogonada, and then just commentary with the two main actors. But it could use a lot more. And I'm just very interested in architecture, because this is something that, it's not something where you would go to a place that nobody wants to go to, a really small town. And that's the only focus point of the town itself, and thinking about the buildings and the relationships that we have with it and the places. So anyway, enough rambling. Columbus.
Nice. Awesome. Yeah.
It's out on Network in the UK, but it's only a booklet. That's the only thing that it has as far as special features. So that sounds like a better release that you have in front of you.
Yeah. Awesome. Thanks, Nathan.
Yeah.
So, lastly, it's me with a pick of a film that I absolutely adore. And I have covered it on the channel before, but this is back in the early days of me recording videos, when I was a shaking wreck and I couldn't stand the sound of my own voice, and editing videos was just a very painful experience because I was so nervous on camera. But I did a video ages ago about 5 films that I want to come to the Criterion Collection, and I just want to talk about one of those again here. And I'm talking about a Spike Lee joint, and it's 25th Hour. How many of you have seen 25th Hour by Spike Lee?
No.
I have not. No.
Oh.
Again, I'm waiting for a Blu-ray. That's what I'm waiting for.
I bought this like years and years ago, before I even started like collecting Blu-rays, and I just held on to it. It's one of the few films that I did, because I think I mentioned in the previous episode of this Criterion Roundtable that I got rid of pretty much all of my DVD collection, bar literally about 10 films, because I love them so much and they don't have Blu-ray releases yet, and I just wanted to keep some sort of physical copy, and 25th Hour is one of them. So yeah, as I said, it's directed by Spike Lee, and Spike Lee does have 2 other films. I think he's got 2 films in the collection. So he's got Do the Right Thing, and Bamboozled, which I have not seen. I heard it's mixed opinions about that one, but I think it's universally sort of common opinion that Do the Right Thing is an incredible film. And yeah, I think that 25th Hour is one of the best films, or one of the most underappreciated, I don't like the word underrated, but underappreciated films of the 21st century. So the film follows a character called Monty, played by Edward Norton, and it's about his last day before he goes to prison. So he has 24 hours before he's put away for 7 years because of like drug dealing related crimes. It's set in New York City, pretty much like months after the 9/11 attack. That was like put into the plot, because the film was written, the screenplay was written before the attacks happened, and so it was sort of integrated into like the psychology of some of the characters who were in the film. It's a really interesting way it deals with like how like citizens of New York City have dealt with that. But yeah, so he has 24 hours left to basically have one last sort of party, hurrah, and he basically asks some of his close childhood friends who he's sort of become estranged with to sort of go out on the town basically. And one of his friends is Philip Seymour Hoffman, who is the greatest actor that's ever lived, in my opinion. And in an incredible role. He's probably the best acting performance. I think he's the best in the film. And then Barry Pepper, who is a very underused actor. He's been in some really good stuff. Is also one of his other friends, and yeah, he's like a Wall Street sort of broker sort of thing, really rich and sort of up himself basically. And then Philip Seymour Hoffman is like an English teacher, so he's a bit more grounded and stuff. And yeah, they just get together, and it's sort of like them reflecting on their friendship over the years. And yeah, as I said, it deals with how the psychology of like people in America, but also more specifically in New York City, changed because of the 9/11 attacks. And yeah, the DVD does not look great, because when I bought this, I would have had like a tube television that would have been at least like 28 inches, wide, and weighed as much as like my sofa to try and move. So it definitely needs a restoration. I know there is a Blu-ray, I think, in America, but I think it's literally just the DVD transfer put onto a Blu-ray disc, so I don't think it looks any better. And I think you can only get it as part of a 2-pack or something.
It's a 2-pack, yeah. So it's not worth it.
Yeah. So it really needs a restoration and some special features, because I think it would be really interesting to see some sort of appraisal of the film now that we're 20 plus years removed from the 9/11 attacks, and just to see where America is now compared to where it was 20 years ago. Maybe not much has changed. But yeah, I absolutely adore the film, and yeah, no one really talks about it. And again, Criterion is fantastic for bringing to attention films that, I mean, Spike Lee's a very well-known director, but this is a film that no one talks about. I think people forget that he made it, and it has an incredible ending, one of my favorite endings in a film. And yeah, did I mention that Philip Seymour Hoffman's in it, and he's my favorite actor? So yeah, so I absolutely love it, and I really want to see it get the treatment, because it needs a visual upgrade, and there needs to be more sort of, I'd love like a video essay, or just like some interviews with the cast. Obviously we can't get one from Philip Seymour Hoffman, but like Edward Norton, Rosario Dawson's also in the film. She plays Edward Norton's girlfriend in it. Brian Cox plays Edward Norton's dad in it. He's really good in it as well. He's sort of like a retired fireman that owns like an Irish bar in the city, and it's really, really good. It's one of my favorite films ever. So yeah, I would really like it to get the treatment. And yeah, Spike Lee's already in there, so I think more of his films will probably enter the collection at some point. I can say in maybe 10 years time, like Black Klansman is something I could see entering the collection, something like that. So yeah, that was my pick. None of you have seen it, so you don't really have an opinion of it. So Yeah.
It's streaming on Disney Plus in the UK. And what looks
there
to
you
be a
go.
pretty decent transfer as well. Yeah.
Oh.
So there must be our
Huh.
version of it than that. So cool.
Awesome. Cool. We have a little bit of time left, so I thought I would just sort of test your guys' knowledge of the Criterion Collection. So I put a few questions.
Dear God.
Maybe we can do this moving forward with future episodes. So some of these questions are maybe quite difficult. I'm not expecting anyone to like know these off the top of their head, but please don't look them up either. And if your criterions are behind you, Nathan, so don't turn around and look at them on the shelf.
Gotta get the mirror ready.
Well, it's because it helps us because we can see them as well. This is good.
Yeah.
I'll just do this.
You have to zoom in very closely. But anyway, so first question to you guys is which film in the Criterion Collection is spine number 888? 888.
Damn it, I know
So
666.
a lot of people, 666 is the Devil's Backbone.
Yeah, everyone knows that shit.
1000 is the Godzilla box set, but
Can you give us a clue? Any sort of hint?
yeah, it's a Soviet film by a Soviet director.
Oh, is it Stalker?
It is Stalker.
Okay.
Ding, ding,
Yeah.
ding.
So I'm just there.
I wouldn't have got that without the hint at all.
I think
Not
I
at
think
all.
it's 888 because of the nuts that he uses on the string in the film. I don't
Okay,
have.
yeah.
I've seen
Oh,
this film
yeah.
like 5 times, and he uses it to throw through. You haven't seen it, have you, Nathan? It doesn't spoil anything, but he uses it to navigate through an area.
Great.
He uses it to
Yeah.
navigate through an area, and he uses.
I'm not
the
sure that
dots on the
film can be
string.
spoiled.
Boy, I know. I
Yeah,
was
it's
gonna
very,
say.
very difficult to
What's it
spoil.
about?
Stuff.
Okay. 1 point to Elliot. So, in which year was the Criterion Collection founded?
1984.
Nathan got there. Ding, ding, ding.
Oh, nice.
Oh.
Yeah. Why do you know that information?
Because it's
How'd
my
you know that?
favorite book, right? I like to live the reality, you know?
Okay, this is a bit of a roundabout question, but what is currently the oldest film in the collection that has its own spine number? So this is according to the Criterion website. So this isn't like a box set which may have some early films that don't actually have their own spine numbers. So this is the earliest film in the collection by year to have its own spine number.
Hmm.
So it's obviously a silent film.
It is a silent
we,
film.
We know that.
Haxon is what I'm going to go for. Haxon.
Oh, okay. We'll see. We'll see. What do you want to go for, Elliot? If you've got another guess,
I can't look.
I'm still thinking.
Okay.
I'll let Nathan go.
So it's not a laser disc?
No. This is a Blu-ray release on.
It's a Blu-ray release.
Yeah. So like the modern version of the spine numbers that we know today.
I'm blanking.
That's okay. If you can't think of anything, we can. Shall I tell you?
I'm just going to guess. Is it The Kid?
Oh, that's the second oldest film in the collection.
Right.
Now that is it a Chaplin film?
No, it's not a Chaplin film. It's The Phantom Carriage by
Carriage by
1921. Both The Kid and The Phantom Carriage came out in 1921. But yeah, The Phantom Carriage came out New Year's Day, 1921. And The Kid came out on January 30th or 31st, I think, in the same year. Okay, so last question to round things out. Whom are the only father and daughter directors in the collection? And you get an extra point if you can name each of the one films that they have in the collection.
So is it Coppola's?
Well done. Nathan gets the point for the director duo.
And so, I want to say
Sofia Coppola and Francis Ford Coppola are both father and daughter, and they are in the collection.
I know the answer.
Yeah.
It's Rumblefish and Virgin Suicides.
Yeah. So I think Nathan wins. No, Elliot wins. Sorry, he got the most points there.
Well, we all win.
We all win.
No.
Participation trophies, right?
I'm the game master.
I lost.
And Elliot wins. Cool. I thought that'd just be a little bit of fun to round out the
That was-
episode. So,
that was good, yeah.
Hopefully I'll have some more questions for the next time, because those ones took me a while to come up with. I was like, I don't know what to say. But yeah, so this has been fun. Despite the little hiccup with the technology hiccup in the middle, but I hope all the viewers out there enjoyed the episode. As always, leave a comment below. Let us know sort of what films you'd recommend to us that are in the collection, and yeah, what films that you love that aren't in the collection that you'd like to get the treatment for one reason or another. So until next time, we will do this again. I'm sure we'll manage to organize something for the future, hopefully not too distant. And yeah, it's been fun, guys. So until next time, take care.
See ya.
I go.
Bye now. Bye.